All right, so I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to make it a JavaFX project. And I'm just going to call it demo in class. Now, if I open up this project, and I open up my SRC, my source file, you can see that it's doing a sample FXML, and this is my XML file that my scene builder is going to use. And then here's my main file, and that's what's going to have my main code. So we're going to change this file structure a little bit so we can follow MVC, Model View Controller. And the first thing we're going to want to do is change some of these. So we're going to rename this. We're going to say we're going to go to Refactor, Rename, and I'm just going to call it Demo in Class. Now this is my package. And I can also right mouse click in here and say New Package. And I'll say View. I'm keeping these all lowercase. And then I'm going to move my sample into View. And my sample, I'm going to change it to I'm going to refactor it as well. I'm going to call it the same name. So Refactor, Rename. And I'm going to call it Demo in Class. And let the extension keep it different. All right. Now, if I right mouse click on this and look all the way down at the bottom, it'll say Open with Scene Builder. And this will open up. This is a separate application that its whole purpose is to create the XML file for me. I'm going to go up here and do an anchor pane and drag an anchor pane out here. And then I'm going to right mouse click on it down here and say oh, I'm sorry. I want to get rid of that grid pane. I'm going to delete that grid pane. Let me do the anchor pane again. There we go. And right mouse click, and it should save I expected it to say fill parent. Okay. Well, it's not gonna. And I'm just going to do a Control S and save that because I don't want to get lost in here now. You'll spend most of your time in here, but I want to show you what we just created. So I'm going to reduce this down. And if I click on my FXML file, this is what I just created. And here you can see my anchor pane. And all the different attributes that it has. So this is very much like your Android development, where this is the XML file for your layout, and then your code is going to be in here in the main. So this would be like your code in your, what was it called on the Android? Yeah, activity main. So this is like activity main. We're just going to call it main. In the demo, in the tutorial, we call it main app, main app. But you can see it's, and then this is the interesting piece here, is here's our main function, right? Our main method. And what does it call? It calls a function called launch args. Well, what the heck is that? There's no launch around here. Well, application is the parent for any JavaFX class. So when we created a JavaFX project, it automatically said, okay, we'll call it main, but we're going to extend application. Well, what do you do when you come onto a new class? You run to the dictionary, you say Java 8 application. And here's our Java application class, and this tells us all about it. And here's an example. And then it goes in and shows you all the methods that are available in this parent class. So you'll probably want to refer to this a couple times, so keep this handy. But that's what we're extending application into main. And what happens is this is part of application. So the launch runs, and then it goes and then it runs launch, runs start, and then start is where we put all our code. So you can think of this, and I forget what it is on Android. What was the beginning method in Android? It was something about start. Anyway, so this is kind of extra, but we run this little baby step main because that's Java. Main calls launch because that's an application. And then launch automatically calls start. Now notice start is overriding because start is also an application. Anybody still have their API open? If you have it open, look and you'll see there's a method called start in application. But it's abstract, and we're fulfilling the promise now. Oh no, it's not abstract. I'm sorry, it's not abstract, because then this would be a interface. But anyway, so we're overriding it with our own custom code in here. Now, where does that tie in with our here's our sample builder, and we changed this, and we called it, what did we call it? Demo in class XML. So you see, here's where we're hooking in with our XML layout, or our UI. And this is one of the requirements of your project, is to show where you're connecting the UI, the XML file, with your Java. Now, in Android development, it had to compile and make the R class. JavaFX does it automatically. It can go in and read this XML file and translate it and feed it into Java automatically. You don't need that R class or that type of step. All right, so I'm going to review again. Now look at my icons. This right here is Scene Builder. Come on, Scene Builder, show yourself. Here's Scene Builder. And again, if I take, now I have a layout there, but let me go into my content, my controls, and Well, it's easy to grab, so let's just put a button in here. And then over here, I'm going to change my button to submit. I can change my font size. I can do all kinds of stuff. I can make it bigger. I can position it. If I do Control S and I go back to my XML file, now you can see that I've added in my button. So you can go in if you want and be mean to yourself and write out this XML. But I think you'll find using this application, it's going to be a lot easier and more accurate. So let me sit on Scene Builder just for a minute. These containers can be nested inside of each other. So one of the things I can do is I can get an HBox, and I can put an HBox here and run it across. And then I can move several controls into there. Let's say I'll put a text box in there, text area. So now I got 3 text areas in here. So there's your containers, your controls. If you want to do a menu, you got your menus. And I wouldn't worry about miscellaneous shapes, charts, or 3Ds right now. But then, so this is the library, and then this is your document. And you notice now on your document, we have down at the bottom, we have your anchor pane, and then you can see how I've nested these in. So this horizontal box and these 3 text areas are in the anchor pane. And you can see these little arrows here. Do you see how you can give yourself more screen real estate by closing those up? Now here's a gotcha, is oftentimes you have to get down to this controller, and it's hidden down here at the bottom because we have this document pane open up a lot. So after a while, you won't be able to find this, and so you can either close this and then it'll show up, or you just go all the way to the bottom of your screen and open up your controller. And this gives you, oops, sorry, wanted to do the zoom in. This gives you really important information on your controls. This is where you connect it with your Java code, and this is where you have your different IDs, your object IDs, so your Java can find it. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But this little controller piece gets lost here. And then here's our hierarchy. So your hierarchy is open most of the time, and you lose this controller. So just know where that's hidden. Over here on the right, oh, and I don't do this in the, yeah, so over on the right, I'll select this text box right here. And so you can do prompt text. I'll just say last name. And I'm just going to put in Johnson. So this is what would prompt if I didn't have a value. So do you see how that's adding as a prompt? If I put in a value, which I highly recommend, then it shows the value. And again, you can change the font size if you want. And so this is all your properties on how it looks. This is editable. It's not a read-only. And you have lots of things here. You can also, and this again, this is part of your project, but you can use CSS. So here's your CSS, and we want to say color. Oh, where is it? I just want to say color. I'd have to find out what to do with then, but let's go to background color. I'll pick on that one. And we'll come in here and we'll do it, should we do it a light gray? CE, CE, CE. Let me do it a little bit darker. Yeah, you can see the difference here between the two. I could go a little darker. So I'll go pound AAA. Thought that would go a little bit dark. It's not doing it. Huh, I don't know why that's not taking. Background color. A. And maybe I have to go down here and save it. I'll have to look into that. I don't know why that's not taking. All right, but there's more over here. So again, over on the right side, you have these little arrows. So we're going to close that. We're going to look at the layout. And your layout is where you can put things. Now, there's a different layout where you can lock things into different corners. It's called a border layout. And then there's some numbers up here where you can lock things in whatever corner you want of the border layout. And you'll do that in the tutorial. But here you can see, you can set up your max width, your height, all your different things. We can set up our padding. So that's our layout. And then in the code area, this is the text ID, and this turns out to be really important because this is your connection to Java code. So we're going to use the prefixes that you've learned in all your other languages, and we're going to go text L name using the naming conventions. And you can see I have lots of functionality here on all my different events. Here's my mouse overs. Here's my on keys. Where's my click? Here's scroll. All kinds. Here's all my events. But the really important part is this right here, this fx:/ID. And again, you can lose this because usually your properties are open, and you can see that this goes way down at the bottom, and you forget about it. Come on up. There, you see how that stuff hides down at the bottom? So don't forget about these little arrows to open up these menus. All right, do a Control S, and if you go back to your code, and now you can see all the XML that we've added in. Here, do you see how the style came in with our background color? Huh, that's weird. I thought I did it CE, CE, CE. Here's my text. My prompt. Do you see how it added all this stuff in for us? Now, can you go in here and change it here? Absolutely. Let's put in Smith, another rare name. Make sure we do a Control S. Go back to our scene builder, and there you can see it registered. So it works both ways. Now, I'm going to zoom back over to the left again. And I want to show you in the document, this is in my hierarchy. So now you can see it puts in my value, and here's the names. And if I look at my controller, you can see that here's my, oh, I named my anchor pane. I did the wrong thing. Oh, lucky I checked on that. So let me go back in here into my hierarchy. I want to change this. So it's my anchor pane has the wrong piece on it. So I'm going to go back up here. Open up my code. And I'm going to just call this anchor pane, or anchor. Just keep it short and sweet. All right, then I'm going to go back to my hierarchy, click on the text area that I want to be the last name, and you'll see that this stays open, and now I can put in here text L name. Hit tab, Control S. Now when I go down and look at my hierarchy, in my controller, do you see here my anchor pane has this FX ID, and this text area has this name. Now, I didn't name the other text areas, but you could see how they would all fall into place.
And that helps you style it?
Well, no, you need to know this text ID in your Java code, which I'll show you in a little bit.
You can do stuff with it.
Yeah, yeah. And again, all this is doing, did you run out of juice, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
So all you're doing here is building your XML document. That's all this does. And so everything you do here, and this is the gotcha, this is where you connect to the controller code. And I'll get to that, but this is what you're going to forget, and you're going to come up with a null pointer. And so go into the controller and make sure you have this right, this file name, because this is your connection to your Java code. So this controller is really an important box. It's too bad they stuck it down here in the bottom and hid it. You know, they really hit it a lot, because here we go. You know, you'll probably have your controls open, building your form, doing all your stuff. And it's way down here, this really valuable, important information. The other thing that I found is build your form first and get your form laid out the way you want it. Then go in and set your code, identity, text ID, because as you click on these, you see that each one of these changes, and you can change these IDs all at one time. So this I could go in and say button submit, and this is probably going to be what, text F name. And what should we make this one? Oh, okay. So text prefix. Or how about if I do it yeah, prefix. That's a good. And then if I look over here on the left, and I open up my controller, let me close this other one. So here's my controller, and you can see all of those went in place. So what I found out is instead of doing each of these individually, I get all my objects, and then I go in and give them their proper name up here in the corner. And, their other values and stuff. Now, this is something that's not in the tutorial. I forgot to put it in. But you can go up here to your preview and show in a preview window. And this is what your form's going to look like. And what you can do is you can resize it depending upon which layout you have. Now, we have an anchor layout, but if we had a border layout, this would automatically resize and everything would move accordingly. And if I had any action in here, well, I don't have any code written yet, but this is what our interface is going to look like. So this is a little quick preview. You can also change your themes. And you might laugh, but my mom, who has really low vision now because of macular degeneration, this is what her computer looks like. And she can see that yellow really well. So that's what that's all about. Where was I? Preview, let's change that back. There we go. So you can do your themes, and then you can also tie on a style sheet. Now, I haven't explored this yet, but this is where you tie in your CSS. And I don't know, you noticed over here we had FX in front of our styles. I'd have to look to see how this would all work. But this show preview is a really nice, useful tool to check what your layout's going to look like.
So for the project, you just want us to style it within this thing, not make a separate CSS?
Yeah, just style it in this. You don't need a separate sheet, no.
Okay.
Good question. Let's take a break.